What's up? How you doing?
Yeah, thank you for joining, Lizard. Doing good.
Absolutely.
We got Lizard here today because he's going to talk to us a little bit about endgame gearing. Obviously, a lot of new players right now in the game. We have the basics covered by a lot of different content creators, but once it gets into a little bit more endgame and a little bit more complicated, a lot of people check out. So we're kind of going to try to introduce min-maxing a little bit more, talking about character stats, how the economy changes, everything kind of. So yeah. What do you want to start off with?
For the longest time in last Epoch, people have built their characters pretty much the same, regardless if they were playing softcore or hardcore, because the main way to progress your gear progression has always been tied to not dying and getting the rewards of the content you're doing. But we've definitely seen that with the rise of the Merchants Guild and group play and all of these things, and how the economy is so fresh and so new that no one knows what's going on. Suddenly, new strategies are popping out. We're actually going full DPS and softcore trade and just like trying to get
kamikaze.
Just like corpse rush into high corruption just so you can get more gold per hour from like the reward echoes that give gold, or just like now corruption actually buffs things like legendary potential, right?
Yeah.
So suddenly, you're incentivized, especially if you're playing softcore and trade, to play the game a bit different.
I think it's only like 14% more chance for LP or something, right? That's where it caps out.
Well, it has diminishing returns, so I don't know if it has a hard cap or not. They haven't said so, but they have shared. We have extrapolated the data based on the numbers they gave us, and it does look like, from the first 300 corruption, it goes up like by 10%. And if you go up to 500, suddenly you're only at 14. So, you can kind of like imagine how the curve is quite aggressive towards 500 corruption.
Yeah.
But I mean, you still get more rarity, right? You still get more items, which is basically quantity in last Epoch. I mean, people are just blasting.
You also get way more double and triple exalted items, I've noticed, a lot more.
And not only that, but also the kind of items that you have access, depending on the faction you get, are so different. For example, the COF is extremely good at getting runes. Like, I had like 60 Glyph of Despairs at level 70, just doing prophecies.
I actually know of people who play trade and they have like a character in COF for glyphs and runes, yeah.
That's another topic, right? Like, I would assume that when the game gets Giga, Degen, and people start actually taking it serious, you literally have a glyph farmer who's just doing, prophecies all day and shit, and I don't know, who knows where the game takes us. But you're definitely going to gear slightly different, right?
So talking about gearing and stuff like that, the game is a little bit more interesting in terms of gearing, I feel like, because it's more restrictive than, for example, Power of Exile. You only have 4 mods, or 5, theoretically. And there's the whole LP system, so you can have endgame builds where you have uniques that are basically just there to, to be LP conversions, right? Where you have like 3 or 4 LP on.
Like a nice implicit, basically.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So where do we start with itemization to kind of understand how to min-max a build?
The implicits are the thing where everything starts, right?
Yeah.
Because implicits is what is available to you, and depending on the class, you're going to have different implicits available to you, right? Because you have different chest pieces, different helmets, implicits, etc. And normally, when you start building up a character, you take a look at, okay, what am I getting from my class unique implicits that I don't need to supplement anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
Like in most games, right, you're trying to get everything you can get for free, so you make room for luxury stuff, the better.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is completely right. Like, when we used to make guides, like a year ago or 2 years ago, before the LP was a thing, it was so cookie cutter, right? This is the implicit, this is it, that's it. Yep. And now suddenly you get the random chatter from time to time. But I got a 3 LP something, isn't this better? And you go like, alright, Mr. Lottery winner, okay, you win, I lose.
Not to call anybody out, but I actually noticed this in a lot of guides where people are using uniques that if they didn't have LP on would be absolute garbage. But they have like 2-3 LP, which is very weird for new players to see, and then they're running around with these shitty uniques instead of a good Exalted just because they don't have LP on it. And it's like... Yeah. The LP is exactly what makes them good, right?
In my guides, for example, I try to avoid that in the endgame planner and stuff. And I mean, some builds, for example, the Bleed Warlock I've done now, it's causing me so much trouble. Because again, people just see the uniques and they're doing their transition into the uniques before they have the gear.
Yeah.
because the uniques are actually easier to get than the gear itself now with all these like progression methods. But yeah, the game is quite wild at the moment. But yeah, like you were saying, implicits are the most important thing, and the game has shifted so much because obviously they've done a lot of changes to implicits, like the new boots with less damage taken on crit pretty much have changed the game completely from in terms of itemization, because obviously before everyone pretty much used to go with the crit avoidance. Yeah, they're called Citadel.
Yeah, this
Citadel
one,
boots.
Citadel, yeah.
And they have up to 50% reduced damage taken from crits.
Yeah.
And what this basically means is like if you're playing something like Rune Master, which gets already 40 something on the passive, or you're playing Sentinel, which has another 80 on an implicit on the helmet, or literally any other class, you can suddenly just literally craft a tier 5 fortification is the name of the affix, tier 5, and just with these two
You're fine.
You're basically good to go.
And if you have like 5% or 10% left of the crit, it's not the end of the world. It was just crit avoid was always the problem. Before you get 100, it's kind of trash, right?
And not only that, because of cost opportunity, we always had crit avoidance on our rings, right? Because you couldn't get
because you can't get
things.
hybrid health or health. Yeah.
Exactly. And now suddenly those ring slots that were always reserved for resistances, health and crit avoidance, are suddenly free.
Yeah.
And now you have builds, for example, builds that stack a certain resistance, like a cold res or necro res, or some of these like niche builds suddenly have room to breathe, which before it was just too taxing. No?
The classes who don't get res on the tree and stuff like that, yeah, it's huge. Also, the red ring of Atlaria, if you can show that one, is also a very interesting one.
Red ring is basically because, again, this is the kind of ring that used to be so taxing because, I need my crit avoidance on a ring, and I also need my endurance and this and that. And suddenly, because you get your crit avoidance solved, suddenly, hey, you can go all res blessing. Now you can just go all attribute items, etc. Right?
You have all res blessing and 2 of these, and all of a sudden res isn't the thing anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's insane. And also in Circle of Fortune, once you're rank 10, if you drop 1 of them, you have 2. That as well. So yeah.
If it drops from a reward, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, for example, in a lot of my build, if I had to say a lot of builds right now at the end, unless you need something special, you have the all res blessing, you have your Omnis, you have a red ring. What is res? You know? Yeah. Obviously, you have to roll it well, but a lot of the times you don't actually need it as well rolled as it looks, because you're gonna get some res for free from your class, right? So,
yeah, or like on health idols or something like that as well. Right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, the premium res on Omnis is usually everything but LE, right?
Yeah, I think like in most classes, as long as you get physical, poison, or whatever, because Void res you can just get from Blessing, Lightning res from Blessing, Cold res is kind of nice to roll, honestly. Fire res, kind of nice to roll, and physical kind of nice. Everything else is not that important, so especially if you're gonna roll an Omnis with it, which is also pretty easy to roll because it's from 15 to 20, so it's not even hard to roll this one. So
yeah, that's huge. I mean, I guess since we talked about LP and like items with LP, in terms of exalted items, what are like tips and tricks maybe you have for people to craft optimal exalted items, either to transition into endgame LP items or actually as endgame GG items?
One thing that people need to learn is they need to learn to value what affixes scale the best for legendary. Like for example, right now I'm playing a bleed build, right? And a lot of people wonder, hey, why are you not having exalted bleed penetration or bleed duration or whatever on your stat when it's a bleed build, right? It's a good stat.
Yeah.
First of all, you have other sources, right? Which has to do with cost opportunity and diminishing returns and these kind of things. But also, it's like if you look at this affix, like at tier 5 it's giving you 34%, but at tier 7 only goes at 63%, so it's even less efficient. The ramp is going against it. Whereas if you look at something, for example, like health, right? How crazy is,
completely crazy. It's double.
Tier 7 health, like compared to tier 1, the value of this item, it just goes amazing, And if you look at attributes, for example, it's 20 times the value, from a tier 1 to a tier 7. Whereas if you look at the bleed, it's literally 4 times the value, right?
Yeah, if you get a tier 1 bleed in there, that's already something, right? Like,
yeah, it's already amazing. And not only that, this comes back to sealing. Why would I, in my build, right? When I can literally get a 20% on a tier 1 that is basically guaranteed to seal, right? With the Glyph of Despair if the item meets the requirements.
Yeah.
Not only that, these affixers tend to be very rare. As you can see, they're very rare.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much easier to just go vitality here or like all like intelligence, dexterity, especially because the meta is pulling us towards red ring, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously meeting the 180 requirement is actually can be pretty demanding on some builds.
The thing is also that I noticed is the fact that you have Red Ring and Omnis in so many builds now, and that like the slots opened up for them means the suffixes are way harder to craft. Because before you could throw in a Void Res here or there, you could throw in a Necrotic Res, and it was fine. But now it's like those stats are very often wasted.
And not only that, it creates a very weird thing where, for example, for when I'm making guides, it's kind of hard to tell people what to do at what stage because certain stats are really volatile, right?
Yeah.
For example, until you have these boots, right, the Citadel boots, which are level 85, it's still really not worth it to go for reduced damage on crits because it's a pretty rare stat. You need to get it on your chest, and your chest is you want to get the HP at the same time. It's kind of hard, you know, to be investing on it, but it's very easy to just go and get the blessing and just forget about it and start making your gear from there.
Yeah.
But right now builds look absolutely weird because you go from woven flesh, right, at the beginning, to suddenly you have crit avoidance blessing, but then you take off the blessing and you go for all res, and in like builds, instead of having like 2 stages like they used to, now they have like 3 or 4 even.
Yeah.
4th being the Omnis Red Ring stage, right?
The gearing gets a lot more confusing. It's like it reminds me of PoE in the sense where you kind of want to throw in items, but you don't really know what to do because you don't know what people are gonna find, right? So it's just very hard to adjust to that. I guess one thing I also see a lot of people do wrong is they prioritize, for example, they would rather have 4 tier 2s on an item than like 2 tier 5s or something like that. Right?
Yeah, that is the biggest mistake. Like, hey, why are you level 80? For example, on my race to 100, this was my belt. I had a spider link sack, which is one of the new.
Yeah.
Which is one of the new implicits. Again, this is basically 2 tier 5s for free.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Compared to
to like, yeah, even the big armor belt, right, which gives 200, which is, or 8% movement speed. I mean, come on. Yeah.
But again, that is the 4th stage. Whenever you get the Omnis and the Red Ring, then suddenly these reses are not necessary, and then you switch to the luxury Praetorian belt, right? But Spiderlink is so nice for leveling, and my belt was literally this. I had tier 5 hybrid, tier 5 increase. That was my belt for level 100 race, you know?
Yeah. Because what are you gonna get? Increased damage? Like, you can't get any attributes.
Yeah, I mean...
There's like...
Exactly. And again, what you're saying too is you also need to think that a lot of these rolls are meant to match rolls of another tier 5, right? If you get, for example, 2 resistances, right? If you get 45, and you're always gonna be a bit averaging the roll or whatever.
Yeah.
If you don't have tier 5 of something, it means that you're gonna have to compensate with, you know, a tier 5 somewhere there, but then you need a tier 1 somewhere, or you need an idol. And if you go by tier 5s by blocks, you know, it's so much easier also to make gear changes.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you have, let's just say I have my fire res on my gloves, right? And suddenly, oh, it's just a tier 1, and then the rest is spread into a tier 4, a tier 3, and a tier 2. If I change any of these pieces, I'm screwed, right? Or for example, something that I do while leveling before I have my Void Res blessing is I'll just use their Void Res gloves, right? And I just craft Void Res on them, right? Even though it's not a very efficient stat while leveling, because you want to use this for armor shred or for like hybrid health or all these things. But I know that the moment I get my blessing, I can just throw this to the garbage, and whatever I put here is going to be an upgrade, right? And it's going to make me progress towards my goal. And the same goes, for example, for chest piece. I see a lot of people when leveling, especially if you're playing hardcore, like you would have like very big res on your chest piece, like tier 5 fist res on your chest piece, and then you drop woven flesh, and you're like, okay, what do I do now? Do I run around in Monolith with 10 fist res? For the crit avoidance? Or you kind of like need to plan ahead, right? And be like, okay, whenever I get this upgrade, where is my stats coming from? What am I replacing it with?
I guess in terms of itemization, another thing that I see a lot of people doing wrong is what they actually seal, right? So for people who don't know, you can seal a 5th stat on an item with a Glyph of Despair. And it's very important to know what you're going to glyph and what tier you're going to glyph. Do you have some insight on that?
This is something that has taken me a bit of time to like understand and to apply myself. But basically there's 2 stages of using glyphs. The early stage where you are just going, it's very hard to get items, you're starting out. So you're going to glyph tier 1s, right? Now, there is two types of usage.
Just to throw that out there for people, a tier 1 glyph is basically 100% if you have 4 mods, right? As far as I understand.
And if the item is exalted, yes.
If the item is exalted, yeah. And the higher the tier of mod you want to a glyph of despair, the less likely.
Yes, exactly. So basically how it works is if the item is exalted and it has at least 3 other tiers, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it could be tier 2, tier 1, tier 1, tier 1, tier 1, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That tier 1 seal is guaranteed.
Yeah.
Which means you can use it to seal very, 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 very powerful tier 1 affixes.
Mm-hmm.
My favorites, Cleanse on Potion on Belt, right?
Yeah, can you show that one real quick?
Cleanse is a prefix.
Tier 1 Cleanse. This one is basically, you always get the Cleanse, and the ward is not as important. It scales into whatever, right?
Yeah, and the Cleanse, especially now with the new addition of enemies that you've probably seen them in Act 5, right? The Blitz are pretty strong this patch. Yeah. So something like this, suddenly every time you potion, you have basically immunity to all of these ailments, right?
I mean, you have to have Cleanse. Now, it really feels like you have to have it. If you're not a rogue, this belt is pretty huge. Yeah. And
then another one that I love, for example, is on my gloves, on my relic, or even on my amulet, is, for example, Frailty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Frailty as tier 1 is a 15% chance, whereas a tier 5 is a 35% chance. Yeah. And if you have a very fast-hitting build, which most meta builds are, 15% chance on a boss is more than enough, because you're going to be hitting...
This goes in general for any sort of ailment that you can apply to an enemy that you don't need a lot of, right? That doesn't stack infinitely. Like all of those, or a lot of those are valuable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Something like Shock, if your build needs just to apply Shock, 10 stacks, and you're playing Lightning Blast, I mean...
I think Chill as well, right? Chill?
Yeah, Chill on weapons, it's a classic, right?
Yeah.
Chill and slow on weapons. On a 200, right? Yeah. Chill could be like 38%, I mean, like, you're good to go, you know?
Yeah.
It's just enough.
Or you just do it like me, and you Weaver's Will, the shield, you get...
Erased, Advent of the...
You
Cradle of
get,
the Erased. Yeah.
You get tier 1 block effectiveness, you think you won the game, and then you get tier 7 slow after that.
Oh no. This one.
Right, love the Erased, exactly.
I hate the chance to slow attackers, or... Oh my god,
yeah,
such a bad
200%, let's go.
Hey, they're gonna be slowed at least, you know?
They are gonna be slow, yeah.
This is the useful way to use Glyph of Despair.
There's also, just to point that out, the minus throwing mana cost is important, I guess.
On
that
rings.
Is a no-brainer for a lot of builds, right?
This one, right? Yeah. The tier 1, -3.
The minus doesn't scale until you're in Exalted, so the -3 is an easy seal at tier 1, yeah.
Same for Scepters, if you're using a Scepter for a Spellcaster.
Yeah.
-3 spell cost. All of these are basically the Giga useful, Giga no-brainer things that you just want to have. Another thing that I really like, for example, is +1 skills, right? Like if we take Aura, for example, the increased damage. If you look at Acolyte, for example, necrotic damage, right? You look at this affix. Look, a tier 1 is 76% increased damage. How crazy is that on a tier 1, you know?
Yeah, it's huge.
Like, it's so good. And you say, oh, but the tier 7 is so much better. Yeah, but I mean, I need other stuff. I need plus levels, and I need my attributes, and I need this and that, right? Yeah. These are just like so nice. But Glyph of Despair, in terms of crafting, can also basically be used as a targeted annul, right? From PoE. Where there's like, hey, I have an item that is perfect, but it has this affix where I know for a fact it's going to be impossible to reroll. Yeah. And I'm going to explain this a bit further. For example, you have a pair of boots, and the boots have attunement. What can you actually reroll from boots? Well, you can reroll to dexterity. You can reroll the experimental stuff, you can't, right? Because it's experimental. You can reroll to intelligence, minion, movement speed, strength, and vitality.
Pretty high chance to get something good.
The pool is literally 5 or 6 affixes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you have a tier 1, not only that, but you might also already have another prefix. So one of them is already taken, and it's the one that you won. Well, if this is a tier 1, you're going to have quite a few chances to rerolling into movement speed, which is normally what you're going to want.
Glyph of Chaos is huge on boots, yeah, for sure.
Exactly, huge on boots.
Yeah.
And the same thing, for example, to suffixes, for example, on rings, where it's just like resistances, and if you took it's just like what? Resistances, crit avoidance, and dodge. And again, resistances are so easy to shift around that it's actually a pretty good use of chaos. But what you never want to do is like, hey, what? I'm gonna chaos my class-specific chest that only has like
That has
good
like
luck.
100 different plus
Yeah,
two levels that are useless for me. Yeah.
Exactly. So in these particular cases, let's just say, imagine I have this chess piece, and I'm like, wow, this chess piece is so good for my build, right? But it comes with one attunement, you know?
Yeah.
Well, you're just better off, especially if you're starting off a character and you're not really if you don't have something better than this, just seal it and make room for whatever you want.
Yeah.
And you eventually get the same chess piece, but with a sealed something nice, you know?
I guess important to note also is that Glyphs of Despair, especially if you're on Circle of Fortune, is actually something you can now target farm a lot more. You're going to see a lot more of. Target farming Glyphs is totally fine, a totally valid strat if you don't have them anymore, and they drop quite a bit. So just make your character stronger, and the higher corruption you go, the higher the drop rate will be. So I wouldn't shy away from even using it very early.
To be honest, it's a bit like Glyphs of Hope during the campaign. They feel like they're like so rare. Oh my god, I'm out of Glyphs of Hope. And then Glyph of Despair, once you're on your level 100 character, like you don't give a crap. Like,
you don't give a damn. Another itemization thing I want to talk about is maybe idols. There's a lot of builds where you, for example, want 4 adorned idols, right? Theoretically, or like 2 huge idols, and they block a lot of the space of your idols. And all of a sudden, I feel like in most classes, you cannot make up for the HP you lose, because there's so little amount of percentage HP you can actually get on your items that losing that flexibility on the idol slot with like adorned idols. So for people who don't know, maybe you can fill that up real quick with like adorned idols. Once you have 4 of these in there, it's just really, really hard to get any sort of HP going on your build. Do you have any like tips, or would you say in general those builds are just not viable at a certain point?
I personally think adorns are not that bad, because you can do this and just run 2 and then go for HP idols here. Yeah. Especially if you're playing something like an Acolyte, you can just go the large idols that can come with HP.
To be fair, these are impossible to get. Like, I don't know. I never get these.
I already have all of mine.
That's crazy. So. Yeah, maybe I should target from them, but it's crazy.
Those can be rare, but even if you just get the useful prefix, right? All of this, like, it's already like a lot of HP, right? Yeah. And on other builds also, you could even go for, hey, you're not going to do that? Well, you can just have the 2x1s, right? And then sort your rest with the 1x1s.
Yeah, you can also do Vitality, Fizz Res or something.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Or you could do the other setup where you go for the other 1x3s, right? Where you're doing it like this, and then you have the 1x3s. Yeah. Builds that use this setup that are actually meta, for example, is raids, because you actually, the flame raids.
You only need
because you actually need, you need the conversion, and then you just go for HP. You go for the setup that I just showed. Yeah. But yeah, if you're playing a build and you feel like you need all of this, like, and to be honest, like the worst are the 1x4s. The 1x4s.
Yeah, those are.
And again,
they block everything.
Huge are like okay, right?
Yeah, the ones that fit in the corner are fine. Yeah.
These ones are kind of okay because you can get these ones there. Yeah. Right, but if you get the ornate or
ornate, I think so. Yeah.
Ornates are so bad, and to be honest, I feel like the devs need to take a look at this, and they either need to make it have better synergies with the 1x3s of the same type. Because for example, there's affixes like chance to crit or with totems, or chance to proc a thorn totem on hit or whatever. Yeah. And they only happen on the 1x4s. And it would be so nice if you had at least an option to make some synergies here, so at least I can like, oh, if a thorn totem has proc, now you get this, right?
Yeah, I feel like the 4x1s are also kind of, because very often the prefixes and suffixes are not as synergistic. I don't know why.
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. When I'm theory crafting a build, this is one of the first things I think. It's like, oh, I need to use 1x4 idols next.
Yeah, that sucks. Basically, if there's a stat you need on a 4x1 or a 1x4, the first thing I think is, so it's not going to be a second stat, most likely. Yeah. So that one stat will have to carry 2 stats. Yeah.
And there are some honorable mentions, like, for example, Warpath, you know, you have the void damage and a skill echo. Sure. You have the vitality idols. But I mean, Sentinel, it's not like Sentinel is doing too well with those builds anyway, so it's like, well. And then also the disparity, the fact that some classes actually get HP idols and others don't, is also kind of like...
Oh yeah, is this actually the case? I actually didn't notice. Yeah. So who doesn't get... You're talking about the 1x3s, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Mage doesn't get them and Sentinel doesn't get them.
Okay, that sucks. At least Sentinel has a lot of like ways to get HP.
It's good that everyone has ways to build HP, but if every character can reach the same amount of HP, what is is a
What's the
tank a
point?
tank at that point?
Yeah.
I think it's kind of dumb that you can have rogues with 8k HP, which you can. So
It is weird, yeah. It is weird.
The power of itemization, I guess, but I don't know. I wish there would be a bit more thematic in that regard.
That's true. Like, just make certain classes more avoid based, others better in like hardcore or whatever, or straight up endurance is also. Endurance seems kind of a meme nowadays. I don't even know how to get it into my builds anymore and how to make it work. I feel like a while ago they removed a lot of the endurance threshold you can get on items, right? Or the numbers went down quite a bit.
This patch precisely, I think the devs actually agreed with you because the changes they made point towards that. For example, if you check this chest piece was the Acolyte, they actually changed the implicit to be 6% of your maximum health.
True.
Gained as
they also
endurance
added it
threshold.
to Falconer, yeah. There's a Falconer note.
They also have it, Primalists have it on, they have a helmet that gives 10% of your total HP gained as threshold. So I think...
Honestly, they could remove all of the flat endurance threshold and just make that the stat, maybe. I don't know.
That would be kind of cool, honestly. I don't really know, because at the beginning I thought they wanted to make endurance threshold kind of like its own playstyle where you have small health pool but very, very girthy, right?
Yeah. There's not enough support for it, though.
No.
There's only one suffix max on an item, so you're never gonna get the same as if you're stacking HP. And also, I think HP in this game is so strong and so, like, not easy to get, but so premium that if you give somebody a strat that goes against that, it would have to be extremely strong to be worth it, right?
Yeah. But for example, funny enough, you know what I'm replacing in my rings for my Lich on my planner? We talked about how they used to be crit avoidance. Because Lich is actually a class that plays around endurance, right? With the low life mechanic and stuff.
You going for endurance threshold or percentage?
I actually grab endurance threshold, right?
Oh,
because what else am I gonna get? Like, the slot is empty, right?
Is it as good as the health roll? I don't remember on that build.
70 something.
It's similar,
it's
right?
okay. Health is always better because endurance will still protect you, and the more HP, the more useful Lich becomes, right? So and I don't know, other mistakes that I see people do, I think it's just a lot of people overvalue the wrong stats a lot of the time. People see purple and they lose their mind and they don't realize that yellow item with 4 best in slot tier 5s is way better with a good implicit, very important, like we mentioned at the beginning.
I guess maybe an exception would be weapon.
Where absolutely
certain stats, like for example base crit or something, for people who don't know, your base crit is always 5%, right? So if you don't have any other sources of base crit, that roll can like double your crit chance straight up.
Yeah, like for example on spellcasters, now that we talk about it, Crystal Skull, for example, right?
Yeah,
like one of the metas in last Epoch with most builds actually is, except Rogue because it has Shadow Daggers which automatically crit, is to level up with dots because the base damage of the elements is good and you don't need to worry about crit, right?
Yeah.
But basically, the moment you reach level 74 with most spellcasters, you are looking for that Crystal Skull with 6%. I don't care whatever it has, as long as it has the implicit, because it's gonna make my build.
That mod is stronger probably than the 4 mods on the item itself,
Exactly.
I guess that's another thing that we could point out is like how important implicits are in this game, which is something as a PoE player especially that might be a little bit unintuitive. It is actually crazy, which I'm honestly not 100% sure how I feel about it, because it makes a lot of items just into slams on uniques, and I'm not sure how much I like the discrepancy between implicits. What do you think about that?
Okay, you're triggering my hate spot right there.
Oh yeah?
Yes, I've been complaining about this for a while. Again, I like that implicits are important because it makes bases matter. And in this game where crafting is not like just reroll on the same base, it's actually the life of an item is way more reduced and you go through way more items than in a game like PoE, for example. I think it's very important that you find that, that dopamine, right base, right affix, wow, it's good. Because you're not going to have those dopamine hits that PoE, for example, gives you through the crafting and the slams and all those things, right? So I think it's really important, but how does it make sense? Look at this weapon. Bardish. Implicit, level 71. 130 damage, 190 bleed chance. If I wanted to get this myself, right? So physical damage, right? Whatever it is. And I wanted to get 130. Well, I can't even get it, right? And if I wanted to get bleed, right?
It makes no
Well,
sense.
this is especially the case for melee weapons, right? Because they suffer a lot from this. Melee is already weak enough. I actually kind of like that the implicits are powerful, but I feel like tier 7 melee, I'm not joking, I think it should be 300. Like, and I'm actually not joking.
Yeah. It could
Like,
be 200 or something. Yeah, it could
like,
definitely be.
I think like it's important that you don't make the game like too hard for new players where like they can't play the game without a proper like good item, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that like 90% of your power is coming just from that implicit that literally doesn't matter. Like, I hate that the difference from someone who doesn't like literally if you're a new player, right? And you go trade, right? Level 1, you can literally buy a weapon that has again melee crit, melee attack speed, chance to bleed, whatever your build is using, right? Let's just say it's armor shred, right? And slow, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, I hate that the difference between this weapon, which is basically worth literally like 100 gold, right? And this weapon, which is you get 30% attack speed, or with flat damage is even more obvious, right?
It's almost not even a difference, yeah.
Like, how is 50 flat damage, which I'm getting 130 for free, the difference between a best in slot and something that I can buy day one for 2k gold?
The thing that I like even less about these implicits is they very often have some crazy roll ranges where you don't really have the chance to divine or like blessing in PoE, because at least for me, most of the time I'm on 0 forging potential at the end, right? It's like you have to get super lucky to have the luxury of ever re-rolling, and then most of the time you're going to re-roll the mods and not the implicits. And in general, I feel like the system that Last Epoch here has with these chase implicits would be way more suited for example, PoE, where you can actually craft an item from scratch. In this game, you can't craft white items or magic items.
I completely agree. And for example, for something like the Catalyst that we were talking, like, I much rather have Crystal Skull always have 3% spell crit, right? But let me craft my own, right?
Yeah, make the rolls matter more.
So, because that would be impactful if you, no matter what, every player gets the let's just say you get 5%, right? No matter what, like you get the level, you get your 5% crit, boom, right? That's good. But I feel like if I then want to improve my power, the affix should be where the power is coming from, right?
Yeah.
Again, I do like that implicits have personality, and I do like that they're necessary. But I guess it's also because at the moment the game doesn't really need. I mean, you can beat the game on blue gear, literally tier 4 Jura, everything. Like, you just literally get items like the ones I just showed, like increase health and increase health. Boots, you get movement speed, hybrid health. Gloves, you get hybrid health, armor shred. Relic, you get health, frailty, health, crit avoidance, health, crit avoidance, health, crit avoidance, health, and you're literally good to go. You know, with just implicit, you get your resistances. You can literally beat the game.
Yeah.
So maybe we're having this feeling also because we don't know what the plan for the depths is for difficulty and scope, right? Some
exalted items that have really good implicits as well, because that's what you're losing when you're LPing an item. Those are still better than a lot of 3 and 4 LP uniques, but you don't get them because you have to have the right tier 7 mod, maybe even another tier 6 mod, and then the right 2 tier 5 mods on the right base, and that is where it's harder to get often than like a 3 LP unique, right? Yeah, and this is what we're seeing, the rise of using targetable uniques from bosses as bases no matter what. Yeah. And notable examples, Twisted Heart of Ukaros. Twisted Heart, people just use it for health and like the strength. I mean, people literally just like, dude, this is worth. I was confused today. People showed me a build today. It had this, and I was like, I didn't get it, right? I was like, oh, they're not even using the word part. They're not even using any of the... Crazy. And not only that, it's actually pretty easy to farm it with LP, because it just drops, and I got one with LP already. The one I have in the 0.9, I have tier 7 Caspit on it. Yeah. Dude, finding the tier 7 Caspit on it and slamming it, which is the super hard part to do, it's not even a third of the power of the item. It's tier 7 strength, tier 5 Caspit, you know, plus, in some cases, plus 2 skills on something like Catonic Fissure, right? Because it's necrotic and you can make it also extra, or Chaos Bolts or whatever, right? Yeah. And 20% increase health. Which is... By the way, that's what I said when they nerfed Twisted Heart again and again. Like, I always said, just nerf the health or the cast speed. And not... I mean, sure, you have to nerf the mod, but you have to hit it Like,
I would change the strength too.
or the
It needs
strength.
to be
Yeah,
int.
strength is also incredible.
Strength, like why the free armor? Like,
Yeah.
Not like it's a heart.
That's
you know?
like what,
I don't know.
48%? Wait, it's even more. 60?
Yeah.
60
times
something?
4. Times 4.
Times 4, yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. Insane.
And again, it also plus 16 strength. Suddenly, I'm not only getting health, I'm not only getting all of this, but suddenly, look what great synergy with this guy because they're all attributes, right?
Yep.
And the same goes for an item, for example, like which is used, especially now with the rise of low life, Peak of the Mountain, right? Peak of the Mountain, 50% drop chance, the lowest LP level in the game, I think. Like you can get this with 2 LP at literally doing tier 1. 4 LP is extremely doable. 3 LP is basically I have multiple of them in like every time that I restart the online thing, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly it's like, well, you look at this item, it's like if you're playing something like Ballista or Minions or whatever, right? But you don't care about Leech, right? Which is a lot of the meta builds anyway.
It's free.
Plus 5 attributes is like, well, whatever a thing you have, plus the health, plus the resistances, plus plus all of these things, and not only that, helps you towards the red ring, right? Yep. And then you can then use any Exalted helmet you find on any base for any class and just get a GG item. Like imagine an item like this, right? You find Jewel Circlet, level 7, and you find it with double tier 7, right? Like in some cases, you would literally be like, oh man, like, do I want to use this on, I don't know, something like this, right? And you also get int here, int tier 6 or whatever. Like in some cases, if you're playing a mage, you're gonna be like, do I really want to use this on my build when I'm losing on the good implicits? You slap an item like this that otherwise would pretty much be worthless, or because you didn't get the right implicit into this, and suddenly you get the GG item, which is 0 effort, because getting items that are like on trash bases with valuable stuff is actually pretty easy to do.
The implicits are kind of the payoff of not going uniques, but at the same time, for example, on weapons, as you said, Bardiche and stuff like that is kind of, or also the other, was it swords or something with like over 100 crit multi or something?
Yeah, I mean, look at this weapon, Trident.
Yeah, exactly. Like what the f is this?
I might rather give it like 80 and then make the tier 7 300, like something crazy. I don't need to get horny about the implicit. I need to get horny about the perpy boy, right?
Yeah.
And it just feels like a lot of the times the perpy boy is nice, and not only that, by the time you're getting purples, you don't really need them because you reach the point where your character is kind of good already. I really like the difficulty curve right now of the game up until Empowered, right?
Yeah.
Like the campaign, I think it has the right amount of difficulty where it's not going to destroy you, it's not Dark Souls, but you kind of need to pay attention and hey, this is a difficulty boss here, or this damage type, this, that. It's kind of engaging. I like it, and I've done it multiple times, right? The campaign, hey, how many people have died to Lagon, right? This run, including myself, bad coding.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, the implicit situation is definitely tricky. But TLDR of this video, implicit's OP. Make sure you craft the right tier 5s. You seal the efficient stuff. Make sure you get the exalted tier 7s that are the most efficient. And don't get baited by the color of an item, you know?
Yep.
And look at the implicits.
And don't get baited by uniques and planners. Make sure that they are actually good without LP. If you just have the base version, they probably suck, right? That's another thing, I guess. Most uniques just suck because they are balanced around LP nowadays, it feels like.
A lot of them, yes.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Yeah, okay. Fucking awesome. Yeah, I think this video is very important for people. Obviously, a little bit more in depth than the usual YouTube stuff, but I think it's very important to get that info out there to people. So thank you so much for taking time, Lizard.
Yeah, absolutely. Great having you here and talking to you. And to be honest, I'm just so excited to see where the game is gonna go. So many brains. I feel like it's just a door has opened, you know, and I'm just like so small, so it's nice.
For sure. There's gonna be a lot of things opening, and I see there's a lot of times when smaller games get open to a wider audience. It's like you think stuff is figured out, and the smallest changes can make a difference, and all of a sudden you have a completely new I don't know. You think about certain classes completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's great, and yeah, I hope you're having a good patch and you're enjoying the game, and yeah, it's good.
Oh yeah, can you tell people where they can find you?
I'm on Twitch, Lizard_IRL. I also have a YouTube that I don't really, Like, I tried to, but it is what it is. And yeah, I stream as much as I can, and obviously I'm in charge of the Maxwell branch, all the amazing people there that for sure don't drive me crazy ever. No, joking aside, have a great team, and yeah, this patch has definitely been a bit of a challenge, you know, because so much new info we have to pick up, and in my own guides at least, I feel like I've been polishing it every day. I need to write something else because someone found a little thing, you know.
Completely normal. Completely normal.
But yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, see you guys. Bye-bye.